Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is OctoMan, and today in this live stream we are taking a look into simple casual games for kids. Shoot something which goes from left to right, right to left, up to down, whatsoever, and do something, get some score, something like that. So why do I have this idea, or why did I got this idea? I tried to find it pretty quick. I found a concept, and this concept is rather old already. So it was literally something like, hey, we want to catch something. We want to have maybe some wavy somethings like graphics, like waves, maybe 2, 3, 4 waves going from left to right, right to left, doesn't matter. And in between that waves, I'm gonna put some enemies. Well, enemies in whatever the case could be. So, meaning we gonna have some stars, some seashells, some fish, something like that. I'm gonna do some quick test over here if my microphone works, but it seems to work already. So pretty cool. Also, we want to have some negative effects, meaning we probably want to have something like a spiky fish, like who can do damage or literally gives us negative points, or the players. And we probably want to do some bad fish or some bigger fish or something like that, in which we are going to get more. Maybe we can also differentiate the fish being faster and slower or whatsoever. So what is all of that going to be about? Well, the most of the thing is not really the scripting piece. It's more or less gonna be the graphical side. You probably know that already. So we're gonna start literally with that, because the rest of that, like the actual get something together, is going to be rather small, I guess. Also, we need something to shoot, something like a point, a bullet or something. We don't really need a bullet. We literally just want the kids to click on something with the fingers or with the mouse or something like that. And once we got that together, we probably implement some little timer over here. So once the time is over, like 1 minute is play time, they're gonna try to get the highest score. Well, this probably could be an issue over there. Depends on, well, how big that is going to be. Okay, let's take a look. First off, we need to decide if we want to go Studio 3D in Unity. So that's literally up to you. Choose any version you want to or can or whatsoever. You can go 3D, you can do the basically both works, right? Also, always important, give your projects a name. So for me, it's going into my prototypes, because there are a bunch of prototypes already in. So give your game project you're working on any working title. So the working title is the one you wanna not name the game in the end, but you need to make sure that you give something, or point into some direction. So I give mine, I don't know, something like a shooter. What could I name it? Underwater? No, I don't know. Kids shooter. So since I don't know what it is going to be about, right? So you want to make sure that you're gonna give your whoever's going to play the game later on, they don't need a title yet. Not in the prototyping phase, not in the creation phase. So so go with your concept, go check it out, see where could you go and put some extra things into, maybe a twist, as I already wrote about on my website. Maybe you're going to take a look into this. There's a blog post about the twist and something like that. So choose one topic and a twist. So you differentiate to other games, literally, or to other ones who probably have created something like that. If you are currently watching and haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, because this stream may or may not take a minute or 20 or I don't know, maybe an hour. So take a look into the comment box down below. Also take a look into my the actual, what is it called, description box, where you find a bunch of courses I have to offer. Once Unity has been loaded, I'm gonna go into my layout section and load my old known layout, which I'm working with most of the time. So everything is set up already the way I like to work. So When we do create something like that, we can decide, do we want to go 2D or 3D? Basically, is there a difference? Well, not really, because we are still going inside the 3D space, literally. So because, well, looking back to the concept for a second, it's like when we have like these three wavy somethings, which we are going to put like left to right, these are going to be just images, but we can also handle them as being a 3D object, so basically it doesn't matter. And we don't want to touch them or want to do anything, we just want to move them left and right. So we have like this wavy, I don't know, something. So we can animate them by hand if we want to, like go left to right, right to left, something like that. Can do this in the, what is it called, Animator, and then they do this all over the time. Okay, so that's what we want to start with. We want to define the playfield. We want to see how could it look. Also, we can get rid of the 3D, background over here. We can also give the camera, like if you go to the camera, we can say we don't want to see a skybox, but probably a solid color. And for us, it maybe is something like a bright blue tint, something like that. We can also put it later on the background, the sun, and so on. Hi, Bachir, thanks a lot for tuning in. Yeah, sometimes, time is short. So today we are going to go with a rather simple one. Probably you already got that, but probably you already have created something like that. So what I want to do first is want to go and open my Inkscape and want to take a look into what we need graphic wise. As you have seen already, I haven't prepared anything, so we're gonna do all of that now from scratch, literally. So when you are starting to work with Inkscape, everything is super simple. We are working with vectors over here. If you want to follow me meanwhile we are doing here, ask any questions if you want to, and let's do some conversations meanwhile if you like to. Otherwise, again, don't forget to use the comment box down below. So what I want is, let's assume this is going to be your playfield. You want to go and check the document section, and there's somewhere a way to change the order. There we go, landscape. So if you are going for mobile, for example, you want to go with something like a canvas like that, just as an orientation point. So if you are creating a kids game, you probably have a sun somewhere over here in the corner. Probably it's like 100%, so visible, no outline. So something like that. So if that is the sun, we want to have some water. So there are these fishes or enemies or something. We're going to put them on literally on some kind of a stick. By the way, you can also do this in 3D, like you go with 3D models. No issue. Same thing. Nothing different. Next one is we need this wavy shapes. So we're gonna paint a point with this Bezier curve tool over here. And we literally want to go from left to right. Probably I'm gonna make a little help line here and another help line maybe there, I don't know. So we can go stick to that and just make it the zigzag. I also want to go straight down. I can do this with holding down the control key and just bring it, I don't know, somewhere here, and then I want to close that there. Next one is, why do I do this? Because I want to make sure that everything is literally lined up, I would say. So go with control key again to the side so I can see, okay, this wouldn't be a wavy shape, but if I now convert this to be a Bezier curve, I can do something like that. Can also give it a tint, don't need anything else. And what I can now do is I can take this and duplicate it. Control D, as you already know from Unity, right? And now we can take these, duplicate again, Control D, duplicate again, and so on. Control D, duplicate again. So this is going to be my wavy shape. In Unity, we can later on go into that and change the actual color, let's say tint, as rather simple. I'm gonna go and take this one a bit up because I believe I don't like the look. With Shift key you can still hold, you don't hold Shift. And now I'm gonna drag up because I think those waves in this way look probably a bit better. If you want to, you can do some outlining and so on. I'm gonna do this 2 more times just in case, because I wanna later on I wanna take this block and do something like move it left and right, like from here to here and here to here, something like that. I want to make sure that I have enough space. Also, probably you want to do something like an oval downwards, so it's like going here and then going there, so you have a bit more of a movement in such a game. Again, this is not a must-have, but it's probably a good idea. Next one, I want to make it union, so this is a complete object. There are no lines in between, so this is a full graphic, literally, based on that. So, if we are later on in the game, I'm going to duplicate this one just in case and make it a bit darker so we can see better. In the game, we want to have maybe, I'm going to make it darker again, maybe this one. In the game later on, I want to have it so that probably these are working or moving here, these ones are going to be somewhere else, and these ones are going to be the opposite, and something like that. So you're gonna create some kind of a movement over there, and again, you can decide what the colors should be on these things. So you want to make sure that you have some visual in between, so probably we're gonna put some outlines around that. Gonna do it like probably gonna undo that. Probably put a white outline around it. It's Control or Shift key. Should be Shift. And maybe not white, but maybe a bit darker than this, or a brighter. No, let me do a darker one. In style and stroke, we can say how huge we want to have that. So in relation to that. So again, if we are in this canvas, we probably never see the outside rim over here, and we don't see the bottom line over there as well, because there will be the other ones down below. Okay, so let's create some enemies, because we don't really test. You don't hear my voice. That's interesting. I'm gonna try again. Please let me know if my voice is back. Okay, seems my voice is back because I was listening to the stream for a second. So, sounds okay. Again, make sure whenever I lose my voice or something, or whenever my computer doesn't do anything anymore, just let me know, because my headset seems to be a bit in trouble. Anyways, let's go forward. So we got this. So I'm gonna go and check out my little idea over here. So I have something I want to put on a stick. So I want to move the stick to left and right, and want to put something on top of the stick. So maybe I don't know, a sea turtle, a fish, a clam, whatsoever, and some enemy, something like that. Spiky, I don't know what is a sea eagle. No, it's not an eagle. It's a sea hedgehog, or I don't know, whatever the name is going to be. Anyways, so let's create some. I'm gonna go with black over here because I guess I wanna go with that baddie first, the bad guy. We can go and make this big or huge or small, yeah, always take a look into how huge are your actual things and what would be the size of that bad guy over there. So with the Bezier curve tool, we can do some spiky things. Gonna fill that with black as well. We can rotate, position, and so on. Control D for duplicate. Click once again onto the object so we can rotate it. Gonna put it over there. So we're gonna have, like, you know, some spikes over there. Gonna duplicate this once more and rotate it. And bring this to the other side. And probably gonna do the same thing. Control D. Then I'm gonna do something like this and put this at the bottom over here. Maybe I need one more here and here. So Control D, duplicate. Gonna do opposite flip. Something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect for a prototype. So I don't really spend too much time on this. Gonna give it some white eyes over there, so it's beautiful. Well, don't forget, it's probably going to be for a kid or two, or for whoever. So they do like cute things. Gonna put another one. And if you want to, you can just, you know, do something which is looking beautiful or not, or maybe something like, ooh, whatever. So maybe they like it, maybe they don't. This is something you never figure out anyways, but except you got kids on your own, so you can ask them later on if they like what they see and whatnot. Okay, so at the bottom again, I want to do some kind of a stick. So everything is going to be on a stick. I don't know the color yet, maybe something reddish. So why do I want to have the stick? Well, probably you know this from the past. There was these theaters on, and in these theaters there were like sticks, and on these sticks there were like you know, people playing these things. So you can put them up and down. We can do some variations in the movement later on, and on these sticks again are going to be all these, you know, creatures, fishes, something like that. The stick does not care, but in that case, these things are not going to fly through. They are not flying through the complete scene. What I just noticed is that my creature here is too huge, as you can see, pretty huge. So I'm gonna shrink that down, maybe by half, if that does let me, but it doesn't like me. Okay, I didn't got anything, so there's a way to group things. So we go object group, and let's try again. There we go. So this is going to be something baddie. Maybe we're gonna make the hit zone for this one, I don't know, a bit bigger. We decide that once we're at this point. So, and again, these enemies or whatever are going to be on top of this stick, something like that. I'm gonna try to get them all, or get everything from here. Gonna make it a bit more to the left. Holding down Control key gives me a bit more opportunities and possibilities. So first enemy is done. So this is going to give me a negative points because I was hitting that bomb or whatever, or spiky creature. And now you can also go and create a fish. You don't have to overdo it. I'm probably gonna create like 2 or 3 variations. Probably a fish they know, like a clownfish. But again, if you go for a prototyping stage, then you don't need to go too far with that. Let's see if we can make some beautiful fish shape over there, like this. And I'm gonna give it a mouth, I don't know, and a big belly, maybe. And from here, literally the same shape as this one, I guess. Well, I don't know. It will do, I guess. So, as you can tell, you don't have to be a master in graphics or anything, because a bunch of people always struggle to, that they don't know what they should do, because they say they cannot create graphics because they are code or coders only. So that doesn't make sense. The only thing which is going to make sense is if you do whatever, then try your best to, you know, finish that. Gonna make a bluish something. Gonna put an eye over here. Make it blue or black or whatever. You can be more precise over here. Maybe I'm gonna make another fin, just in case, like this. Super simple things, nothing fancy over here. Just go with the easiest and the quickest way you can do your prototyping stuff. If you want to, you can duplicate that and use the fin at the bottom as well. Just flip it over. It looks like like a shark. A rather cute. Or maybe I'm gonna go with a shark. Why not? Make it gray or grayish. That also doesn't look too bad with this shading involved. So maybe gonna try that out here at the top as well. Maybe rotate a bit, just a small bit. Yeah, it looks perfect. Why not? So again, go for the easiest shapes you can remember. Gonna go bring this at the back side. Doesn't have to be too precise with the length and stuff. Later on we just go for the pivot point at the very bottom. Probably the easiest one is not going for a texture atlas in total, but I guess, well, we'll see. What else did I got on my sheet? Is probably a clam like this one, or maybe just a something special. You can also put some bonus things over there, and so on and so forth. So maybe we can also go with something else. So I need this one again. I want to go with something else. How do you create a clam? Well, basically do the same thing, right? You go here, just, I don't know, use your super awesome painting skills if you got some. If not, it does not matter. That's what I wanted to say. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look like a AAA game. Why? Well, it's super simple, right? You don't have to. I mean, it's a prototype, and usually you don't go over and I don't know. I mean, who cares, right? So I go with some more extras over here, something like that, and gonna give it the same tint. So these ones here are going to get the same tint as the outline. And oh, that was the wrong one. Wanted to go with this one. Nope, one more. This one, and can do another one here, like from here to, I don't know, here. And tint it, holding shift should give it the opposite side. I'm gonna duplicate this, Control D, flip it over and bring it to the other side. So I can now decide how far I want to go in the center. I don't know. These are not sitting directly on top of each other, like with these points over here. So easiest way is always using a guideline. Snapping the guideline and then snap the point, which is not going to be at the correct position over there. Just fill it out, and now we should be able to clamp one on the other side. We can get rid of this clamp or get rid of the rest over there. That's okay-ish. I guess I go a bit over, or at least I try to. So it's not too much snapping over there, but I am hopefully able to anyhow combine this thing. So I go with object group at least, and probably I need to go and squeeze it a bit together. Whatever, and give it a bit of rotation. Maybe we're gonna put the clam, oh no, not that, shearing. Something like that. And we can also do the same thing for the opposite side. So we're gonna go Control D. We can make this a bit darker, well, hopefully, and bring this down, and then move this a bit over here. Like, so you have a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a detail thing here. Nothing too fancy. Again, don't forget, make sure that you don't overdo it. I mean, yeah, don't overdo it. So if you're happy with the size, I guess could be a bit smaller. So maybe the fish does not give too much points, but maybe the clam, if it is a bit smaller and probably faster, or both, then you can give it a different score. So something like that. Okay, so now we got literally anything we need. If you want to use circles in general in Unity, like as a basic shape, I recommend using white shapes. And if you don't see white shapes, you can go into document properties and go with checkerboard. So everything with checkerboard, this is going to go be transparent. Cool thing about this now is we can use this circle and change its scale in Unity and tint it with whichever color we want to use over there. That also works for gradients and fall-offs. For example, if I go duplicate this one, make it a bit smaller, for example, and give it another tint, but blur it up or down in any direction, make it a bit so we have a, let's say, no, let's do it different. Let me do it like I Control D this one and resize it a bit. Gonna make the other one again a bit, nope, need to be at the bottom. So if that's going to stay there, we can blur the edges, and we can also blur the outside of these edges. So we literally blur them just a bit by, you know, just using this one. So we have like a 3D-ish effect if we want to. Again, for prototypes, doesn't matter. So what we can now do is we can export all these graphics. And how do we do this? Oh, by the way, we can also do this with this one. We can use white shape here, but use a gray outline. So white here, gray outline. So we can literally tint it in Unity with any color. We can do literally the same for the other ones here, but then we need to go and use the sticks separately and tint them separately as well. So if we would go with no red sticks, but probably blue ones or whatever. Same for the fish, same for the other ones. Could be literally the same. Okay, so let's export our complete texture atlas over here. How do we do this? Well, we go to PNG export, and in here we can decide how high the resolution has to be. So literally we go with the height because that's the smallest thing here. But before we do so, we want to make sure that whenever we select all of these, that none of the dashed lines are going to be over any other dashed lines. Otherwise, we're going to have a weird cut over there. In that case, I would take this thing and its corresponding stick and probably put it a bit above here, so it's not intersecting anywhere. And we can do the same with the other ones. They don't intersect at the moment, but we want to make sure that that is literally all sorted. Again, if you have multiple or even more of these little creatures and fish and stuff like that, feel free to add them to the texture atlas here as well. The size is going to be a bit different over there, but go for a rather high one. Okay, now we need to navigate to the actual folder where we're going to have our project in, like where the prototype is going to be. I'm going to navigate to this on my other screen. So let's see where it is. Prototypes, kids shooter, assets, and if you are okay with that, you can create a textures folder because that's where our assets are going to be inside. And then you can name this one, I don't know, Texture Atlas. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you're still looking and watching over here, because over 90% of my watchers are not subscribers, which is pretty interesting. I've just found out, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Anyways, let's go back to Unity and see where my textures folder is. Oh, I need to press the button, the export button, otherwise it doesn't export it. And wait for Unity to compile it and yada yada yada. And in textures, we're gonna see this one. And what we need to do is, before we can actually really use that, let me make this one a bit bigger here and put this up. You're gonna see everything is black. The black one comes from the transparency from the alpha channel. What we need to do is we need to convert it to Sprite 2D UI, as well as go for Sprite Bowl mode multiple. Why multiple? Because we want to have multiple objects to arrange in this texture atlas. Go to Sprite Editor, press apply. No Sprite Editor registered. This is funny because that's literally new. If you don't use the Sprite Editor in Unity, then they don't give it to you. So what we need to go is we need to go to Package Manager and import the Sprite Asset Package. So you go to Unity Registry, and there we should find 2D Sprite. This is the asset package we need. So it uses Sprite Editor window and create edit Sprite asset properties like pivot points, borders, and all the other stuff. So we go and install that because we need it, at least for this project. So as you can tell, every new project needs its own, let's say, asset packages. In this one, it's going to be a standard one, so a one which is always in here. So we can also go and remove it at any time. And now we should be able to go into Sprite Editor and cut the sprites in pieces. Easiest one is use automatic spriting, and we can do, well, automatic pivot point could be to the center, but for these ones we need them probably, not quite sure, probably we need them at the actual bottom. Well, let's go with center, why not? We can always change the pivot points. If there's anything deleted, so I'm gonna go and slice that thing. So we should have a slice for the sun, a pretty weird slice for that, which should not be the same size, or this huge size actually. No idea why it sometimes it slices this to nowhere. I don't know. The pivot is still here. Same thing. This one looks good. This one looks good. And our underwater something looks good here as well. Okay, cool. So you can also give it a name over here if we want to. Like we can say this one is going to be our sun texture. And we can, yeah, play around with these things. So that's basically everything we need to do with our 2D assets. We need to apply the changes and close the Sprite Editor. So now we can use all these sprites onto image components, and we should also be able to use them as actual game objects, like with using the Sprite Renderer. So this is more or less going to be the piece or the part, as you can see here, in like is handled as a 3D object, or basically, yeah, kind of. So it just renders a sprite, but it still has a transform which is XYZ. So a XYZ component. We don't need to go for order and layer or sort and layer things like who is deeper or who is more away from the camera than the other one. We can do this like directly, I would say. Okay, so let's design our wavy shape. We get rid of the sun for the moment. What is the size of all that stuff? Gonna go and bring the sun. Oh, by the way, you can see when the sun goes away from a 3D camera, this one is a 3D camera, then of course it changes the size to be smaller or bigger. So we can put the sun anywhere in the scene. We don't touch that anymore. We can even make the sun part of the camera. Oh, and don't forget, you can go here and say, hi, I want to have a yellow sun. And as you can also see, let's go a bit closer, this rim over here, which we just brought away, it takes the tint, the gray tint, and multiplies that by the actual input color over here. Good. Okay, that's pretty easy, I guess. So we can do the same for this waves. Probably I go and rename the actual textures. So I can take this one and rename this one to be waves. So the actual objects, the new objects, get renamed here as well. This, I'm gonna name him Spike. This is going to be Sharky. And this is going to be the clam. Is it called clam or clamp? I don't know. Whatever. Apply the changes. Close the editor. And the next one we're gonna put in as waves is going to be called waves as well, so we don't have to rename them all over the time, depending on how much we are going to use. And same here for the color. We can do brighter ones. As you can see, the rim, like the border, which we tinted gray beforehand, is automatically using this shading over there for testing purposes. Super cool. So we're gonna have like waves 1. Then we can duplicate this and we can give it another tint if we want to. And we can like make it so that it is going to be hierarchically behind it, or we bring it back just a bit, not too much, and a bit higher. And give it another tint, maybe a bit, I don't know what it should be, a bit darker maybe. I don't know. Gonna go and deactivate all of that stuff. Go a bit darker, and we're gonna have a third one probably, which is going to go a bit higher again. Well, and a bit more in the background. So we can see this is going to render here as well and make it a bit darker. Something like that. So we have a differentiation. So if we would go now full screen, maximize and play, and press play, we should see top left, we should see our sun, and then here of course we see the side over there and there. So we need to go with the camera a bit different. So we have the possibility to use an orthographic camera, so we don't have a resizing over scale or over distance, but we don't have the issue over here. Or we take them and bring them closer to the camera, so they resize a bit, but we don't have any issues with that. So let's assume something like this. So again, you have to check the frustum of the camera, and wherever these white lines are going to pass our objects, that's what the camera can see. So basically this is the frustum of the camera. Like the near plane is super small over there, we can't see them, but the far plane, if we go out, the far plane is this one here. So this is the actual shape we need to take in consideration with the camera. Cool, so let's move these little waves. We can do something like a loopable animation from left to right, right to left, and we can give it different speeds. We can do the stuff with the other ones as well, so we give them just an animator, let's say an animator component, and move them left and right. So, well, as far as we want to, give it some wiggly movement, something like that. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as if you like the video or the stream, feel free to stump it up, and don't forget to write any questions in the chat box, so don't be shy, or if you have anything else to say, feel free to do so. What do? We do an animation for our wave 1. So we go create. We need to create a new animation clip. We can name it wave 1 because probably wave 1 and wave 3 or 2 are not going to be the same thing. Next one is I want to go. Why does that snap here? Never mind. In my assets folder, we're gonna create a new folder. Come on. Call this animations because we want to have everything sorted. Animations. And in there we're gonna save wave 1. Save. And now we can do animations to our wave, so whichever we currently have selected. So how does a wave work? Well, it's basically like a bottom falling oval shape, or we just move it left and right. We can do literally both. Let's start with before we animate, let's take a look how far we can go to the left. We see this in the camera. Okay, so when the pivot point leaves the actual camera space over here, it's not rendered anymore. Well, camera space in case of the frustum of the camera. So we need to take a look into that. So I would go and start somewhere here. Now we can record and go to any frame, depending on how fast we want them to be. Let's assume we do something like 2 seconds. Maybe it's even more. Let's go to 3 seconds. 3 seconds to move the wave from the left, most left, to the right. So we need to go click that time here. We can always zoom in and see if we are kind of close there. I go until I don't see it anymore. It should be somewhere here. And after another 3 seconds, I can copy this keyframe, Control C. I go to 6, or kind of close to it, and do Control V. If I now play that, you're gonna see it is going to go left, then it stops for a sec and goes right. Cool. What we now can do is we can take the same animation I stopped the record, and we can try to put the same animation onto the other ones. But we can also probably, well, actually we can also create other ones over here. So literally we're gonna use an animator component over here, animator. We can use the same runtime controller for waves 1. So it also goes and uses the same thing. We can also do the same thing for here, for the second one. Just use the controller waves 1. Just take a look. Let us take a look and see if that looks good or not. So as you can tell, the other two are not being rendered. Why is that? Because they're sharing the Z position here as well. So we need to create new animations for them, for waves 1 and 2. How do we do this? Well, we select that window, animation, animation, and as you can see, it's using this one. So we go here, create a new clip, and name this one waves 2, and save. And we are going to start from another position. So first off, we move it to wherever. We can start, by the way, we can start on the right side, like here. We can go to 3 seconds. Gonna zoom out with my mouse, probably you're gonna hear that. Gonna go send record, and now I move it to the left. So literally do the opposite, like this. And after this, we're gonna copy the same keyframe once again to somewhere around 6 seconds. You can also differentiate the timing in between. And then we stop the record, and we should be good to go. Last one is going to be wave 3. We go again, window, animation, animation. And we go with another clip over here. We cannot use the same one. Gonna use wave 3 animation. Kind of weird that they land into textures folder, but I'm gonna drag them in a minute. So we wanna use, why does it now want that? Waves 1. I'm gonna rename that in a moment. So I go again to 3 seconds, like here, somewhere, and press record. But no, before I press record, I'm gonna go somewhere to the left. But I want to make sure, and this is the funny now, that I don't see the rim over here. So I want to make sure that I have at least this distance. Now I go record and move it, let's say here, and do the same thing, copy the key and bring it to the 6 or somewhere around there. Again, we can differentiate that. We can say this takes longer or it takes shorter, and we just take all the keys and squeeze them together. Even just half a second or something is going to give a pretty different scenario in the end. So let me rename them and also bring them into the animations folder, because that's where they're supposed to be. This one is going to be for waves 3, not 1. This one has to be waves 1. This is the controller. And let's take a look. It's still using the same things because, well, we are using the same controller. And what we want to do is we want to use the same controller, which is fine. But instead of using the Animator component, we want to use an Animator override controller. So literally, which is going to override waves 1. We can also, by the way, create our own another controller, literally. So it doesn't matter because they just loop. It's just a looping scenario. But let's take a look. We go create Animator override controller. This works for characters and stuff like that as well. We can name this waves 2. Gonna duplicate that and rename this one. Is it this one? Yep. This is going to be waves 3. So as you can see, first off, it requests which Animator controller to use. So I click, well, actually this should be waves, this is waves 1, this one should be waves 2. This is the override controller for waves 2. Override because we are overriding the current existing animations in there. So first we add the waves 1 over the controller to take a look into. Now we can override the actual animations over there. But anyhow, it's taking consideration of all the 3 animations, so that doesn't really make sense. So I'm gonna take away waves 2 and 3 out of the Animator component or the Animator controller, and now I can assign these overrides because now they only contain one thing. So if we are using wave 3, we go into the animation clip for wave 3. If we are in 2, we go with the animation override clip for wave 2. Now we should see 3 different scenarios with just changing the override controller. But before we can do this, we need to assign the override controller over here. So since that is going to be waves 2, I'm going to rename that as well. And this one is going to be waves 3. I'm gonna drag now the override controller into the controller for the Animator component. Same for waves 2, gets the override controller waves 2. They do the same thing as Animator controller, but in its own animation. So now you can see we are just moving things from left to right, probably a bit too fast, probably not. You're gonna decide on your own what is going to be better, faster, whatever. You can increase the span of the animations, pretty simple. You can also put some clouds in the background, so you just have some little movement over here. You can also do some hopping fish or something in the background, or do anything else, up to you. So what's the next thing we will need to do? Well, we want to create some enemies which are going to go from left to right or right to left, and we want to make sure that they do this in between, like in between those things here. This is a fun piece here. This one is rendered for the scene camera in a rather interesting scenario. So maybe I'm gonna have to do some magic. Well, if that is going to be, let's say this is a -3. We are gonna put this at a -2. And this one is going to stay at 0, or can also be a -1. Now they are also rendered correctly. Like the render order seems to be, at least for the scene itself, seems to be, I don't know, needed, I guess. Okay, cool. How do we design these enemies? Well, we need an empty game object. Well, probably it's the best way to do it, because that way we can change the graphics at any time we want to, or we're gonna go and just use them purely as they are. Basically, it doesn't matter. How do we do this? Let's start with Sharky. So, what is going to happen? Depending on where Sharky is going to be, like layer or order in layer wise, we need to make sure that he's at the correct spot, like rendered. This is the downside on the Sprite Renderer component, instead of using, let's say, kind of an image component, something. So meaning if that guy here is a -1, like from in the render layer, you're gonna see that he is like rendered. No matter where I drag him next to the camera, he's rendered after the first wave, like after this wave, or at least at the same layer. That's where Sharky is. If I give him a -2 in the order and layer, he's should be rendered. As you can see here now, he is rendered behind number 2. Even if the distance is going to be pretty strange. Not quite sure if that is actually really a point here. I barely do 2D games, by the way, so usually I do 3D. But let's do this to -3. So if we do -3, you can see he's rendered at the very back side. Okay, let's try that again. I don't move him, I just let him there, just to understand how he works. So -2 brings him here, like after this one, and -1 brings him after the first wave, like here. Okay, with that knowledge, we need to later on talk to the Sprite Renderer component and order and layer based on where we are going to spawn this guy. I mean, it doesn't really matter, literally, but what does matter is we want to make sure that this guy is maybe all the enemies are going to be rendered at the same height. Like they have a spawn point here or spawn point there, and then we just say randomize the order and layer, so it could be more up front or but more back, so something like that. So if we later on would have like multiple Sharkies moving along, and maybe doing also meanwhile moving, we're gonna do something like that, like an upwards downwards animation, but not a left to right. So that's what I would try to get into work. I don't know how we can do this simply. But that's something we should take a look into. So we can do animate the up and downwards thing, but the left and right, we want to go left and right with code. Yeah, cool. Let's go and code with Sharky, so we can move him left and right, or left or right, depending on where he has been spawned. Well, and this is the actual decision we need to do. And same thing, like if we spawn him to the right, we want to, you know, switch him over to look to the other side. So he should be rotated 90 degrees in the other side. So let's take a look. First off, we need some scripts. So I usually create a scripts folder. I'm gonna name this enemy. You can name it whatever you want, doesn't matter. As long as you know what you're doing, it doesn't matter. And we need to assign the enemy script to Sharky. There are some things we need to take into consideration later on. Is the actual hit zone. Where do we want the players to hit him, like with the mouse, for example? Like if we touch him, where should be the hit zone? So we have a bunch of things to take a look into, or actually think about, is how do we want to touch him? So, and how do we want to define the actual hit zone? We have multiple possibilities over here. We can use something like a Polygon Collider with some rigid body component, but I don't know if that is going to be the best way here. I open the script now, since we want to do some left and right movement. Super simple. We just do a translation based thing. Gonna take a second because, well, seems my computer is a bit busy sometimes. Oh, by the way, if you want to get some more movement into it, once again, you can implement some clouds. We can also increase and decrease the scale of the sun if we want to. So, meaning we can do scale it up and down so it looks a bit more liveful. And you can also put some bird animations literally at the top. Like if you don't know, well, for the prototype it doesn't matter, but it would be nice to get a good feeling about it. What do we want to do with Sharky is rather simple. We literally, in update, we want to move him left to right. By the way, try to use as less update as you can. So, meaning even if it's just a simple translation, of course, update can help you here, but a coroutine might be better performance-wise. Just keep that in mind. I guess we don't need start. We don't need anything else. We probably need some movement speed to translate to. So we can give a public float if we want to have access to it or not. Public float as speed. If you're a beginner, this shouldn't be too new to you. But, well, this is just a usual thing. Let's start with 2. It's a kids game, don't forget. So, meaning kids probably don't react fast enough. So, we may or may not go into that. Yes, code! Bit here, I know. But the thing is, if you go with anything, you know it best, right? Because you have started a bunch of projects already. If you know that graphics, I mean, you do know that graphics are important, right? So even if a prototype, you want to sell the prototype to somebody. Hi, Cristiano, thanks a lot for tuning in. You want to make sure that it is still at least a bit appealing to whoever you want to sell your idea for or to, right? So if you have a company and they say, hey, create a prototype about a shooting game for kids, you want to make it so that it is, let's say, as beautiful as possible, in quotes, but not too much. Not too much in a case of... not too much in case of time-consuming graphics, right? So as long as you don't have to pay like more than 10 to 30 or something minutes. I know we were. I mean, while I'm explaining, it's taken a lot more time. But yeah, if you need that time, well, it's well invested. Trust me. Cool. What do we want to do? Well, we want to translate the fish from the left to the right. Again, guys, if you have any questions, and girls, of course, as well, don't forget to ask them into the chat. Say hello, do whatever, and let me know what you're thinking about, well, and what you're working on probably, and so we can talk about it. We want to translate the transformed position. We want to include the position by something. It doesn't matter if it's a positive or negative value. We can also multiply that by something, by a vector, by whatever. Let's assume we would multiply that. How do we multiply that? Multiply equal, right? If we add to something, like to a current position, we can do as well. So next thing is, what do we multiply it for? Depending on the direction. So if we have started on the left, we need the opposite direction. So we multiply by a negative value left, or we take a positive right, or whatever, or we switch it. We can use that, by the way, also to use an expression. It's like an if this then that thing, otherwise do this and that. We can also put this in an expression. That's for the more advanced guys over here. The expression can just totally take a look into, okay, where did we start it? We can use a boolean, has started left, right, yes, no, and based on that we can do this expression type. So this bool can come from whenever we have instantiated that object. Let's implement such a bool. We don't need that yet, but we're gonna get it there. So we can name it has started left, for example. So if it has been started left, then we want to take a negative number. Otherwise, we want to take a positive number. So we, for example, we can say now we want to use the vector3 dot. What is it? We started left, so we want to use, we want to put right to it. Vector3.right always means it is going to be moving 1 unit to the right. So we add to the current position, we're gonna add 1 unit to the right. A unit is like a 1 meter, something like that. We can also multiply that by a speed. No, not by a sprite, but speed, the speed we want. And time dot delta time, something like this. But the downside is we probably cannot add it directly to it, because if we multiply that by that, it's 2 times time dot delta time, maybe rounds it down. But we'll take a look into this now. For the for you guys with the expression thing, it's we can put this directly in here. Let's start with a colon so you get an idea about it. So whatever has started left is going to be, if it is true or not, we can differentiate this vector over here, and then we can multiply it by that. So how does it work? So first off, the expression is that one now here in this parentheses. Now we can say something like question mark. So the question mark now tells if we have started left, then we're gonna use vector3.right. Then we can do something like otherwise, like a colon. Otherwise, we're gonna use vector3.left. For example, not left, but left. And then we multiply it by speed. So the expression, come on, is literally if we have started left, if that is true, we want to go to the right. So we want to multiply or add to the right vector. So we go from that to that. Otherwise, we want to go to the left and multiply by speed and time at a time. The question now is, do we need to take this piece? I guess we have to. Or are we going to put that into another pair of parentheses? Because we want to solve the expression first, see what's going to be right or left, and then we multiply the result by time dot delta time. As you can see, this inner pair of parentheses is not really needed over here, but I usually make it around it so it's more visual. We're gonna see why that is going to be. Okay, let's test this out. Oh no, I don't know. I just want to save that. Hopefully it doesn't crash now. So it has nothing to do but move to the left or to the right based on the speed of 2. Let me go out because probably it's super fast now. And I want to make the, where's my, there we go. I want to make this boolean now public so I can play around with that and check out if the expression actually does what it should do. We don't go for a visual rotation. All of them are now visually rotated to the left. So based on that, we later on go and take a look into this. Let's see if Sharky is now going to the right. So as you can see, Sharky is going to the left because we have not started left. If we now tick bool has started left, Sharky should go, even if it's going backwards, it should now go to the right. So as you can see, an expression can shorten. Again, this is for the advanced guys. The expression can shorten the amount of code you're writing. So basically, you can write a one-liner where we have like in just the what is it going to be about, what we are going to take a look into, multiplied by left or right based on the result question mark says true, or question mark is the true element over here, and the colon is the negative. You can also do the opposite by using an exclamation mark in front of it. So if it is not starting left at the first place, then you can start to the right and then use the left. So basically both ways working over here, or you just change from right to left, like, you know, switching the parameters. Okay, cool. I hope that makes anyhow sense. If not, write down. That's right, Bitchia. I have to flip Sharky when we are going to the right. And we have multiple possibilities to do so. And now the question is, how would you do this? The point is, Sharky has an issue. Because how can I rotate him? You can rotate him over y-axis, which is going to be the up axis. Negative 90 is the wrong one, but let's say negative 80, 180, I mean. So let's assume we now rotate him 180 degrees on its position, right? So depending on, does he have to be rotated or not? We can use this expression, which we used beforehand as well. But let's take a look into rotation. He now should go to the right. As you can tell, everything works. If we now go and flip again, just in case, to test, if the 180 on the y-axis rotation really works. Pretty good. So Sharky can now go to left and right based on this. Okay, so we can use this rotation piece or this information also in code based on if he has started left or right. How do we do this? We just need to, I would go in the start. I would not do this in the update loop, because this would be code useless running literally. So what we want to know is now the transform of Sharky, but first off we need start. Actually, we can also use that. Well, we shouldn't use it in awake, but if we now go and we want to change the rotation of Sharky in start, so whenever he gets created, we want to make sure that we set the rotation correctly based on, has he started left or has he started right? How do we do this, you may ask? And in that case, we want to rotate only the y-axis, right? So if now we're going to put our expression again, I'm putting this into pair of parentheses, you don't have to. So if Sharky has started onto the left, we want to make a question mark, and the question mark, now we want to know the rotation. We can use quaternion dot Euler. So we want to change the actual rotation, and the rotation is a quaternion. So we can put in x, y, z and 0, 0, 0 for the moment. If he has started left, well, we need to put a colon afterwards, and we take the same thing as well. I just put it in here as a placeholder. So now it is marked under, it's because there is no difference between them. So I'm gonna put here a 180. So if he has started to the left, and we know he has started to the left, but he's looking to the right, we want to make sure that Sharky is rotating over y by 180 degrees. Only over y. So this is x, y, z coordinate. Otherwise, this is our else statement. We want to keep him at 0, 0, 0 in the rotation piece. Let's test it out. I'm gonna save. Go out of the script, and we can now play with this boolean again and see how Sharky really acts. So he has now not started on the left, so he should go to the left actually, and he does not change. Oh, the sun was in front of Sharky, so we take a look into this. So if he now is starting at left, because we are using this boolean to, you know, simulate or activate him, Sharky is now going to the right. So basically, simple mathematics, as you already probably know, I guess you do so. We just use the short expression to make him look left or right. And by the way, since we are just moving him just, you know, left and right in whatever the speed is going to be, we can also think about animating this guy up and down. Probably. I'm not quite sure if that is really good. But what we could use is some kind of a upside down, let's say, translation as well over time. Could be useful with a, what is it called? Coroutine as well. Something like this. So if we now would copy Sharky, we could also navigate, or actually what we could do is we can give new Sharkies a different speed when we actually instantiate them, as well as we can give them do start left or do start right. So we need some spawn points. We're going to take a look into them in a second. So we need a manager who takes a look into that spawn points and put our fishes at the corresponding spots, put some timers in between, something like that, and then randomly create out of a pool of Sharkies and all the other fishes and bad guys and so on, drag them in, and then we are good to go. Okay, cool. So Sharky is done, at least for the moment. Later on we need to create a prefab out of Sharky because we need to instantiate them multiple times, right? So this one Sharky guy, as well as we need to take a look into the order and layer thing. But before we do so, let's create an empty game object. I'm gonna give it a icon, maybe something I can see, maybe not blue, but I don't know, purple. I want to move that thing. If you go here and open this one, you can see here's gizmos as well, so you can see where the gizmo is going to be inside the playfield. So whenever you create a new fish or a new anime, in this case, you want to make sure that it is literally outside of the screen, so put it a bit to the side over there. And you can also decide what's going to be the actual Z value. Probably I'm going to put it just at 0 over here. So this is going to be my right spawn point. Make sure that you name your objects correct. Right spawn or R spawn. I need another one. Control D. Gonna drag it over to the other side. This is going to be my L spawn. L spawn. These are the spawn points for the spawn manager, so he knows where to spawn Sharky as well as any other fish. And depending on the size of the fish, we probably want to have that rather close, depending also on speed. And then we want to spawn Sharky at this position left or at this position right. And here, based on the input, we are going to give it by the spawn manager, which we're going to put randomized here as well. And put them into the scene and navigate or differentiate between these actual wavy tiles over here to the layer in order or order in layer, something like that. So we're gonna give it some randomness over here as well. Now we need a spawn manager. Create a new empty game object, name it spawn manager. If you want to, you can take the spawn points and make them child of spawn manager, so you have a cleaner scene setup later on. Probably want to reset this to be somewhere in the center. Gonna use them spawn points here and bring them inside spawn manager. It's not necessary, but keep stuff organized because they are kind of relative to the spawn manager as well. So if we would go later on, for example, because we need to lift up or bring down the spawn points, we can do the same with the spawn manager. So he is dragging them, you know, up and down here as well. So you're gonna see or can do changes rather quick based on the main object over here. Next one, we need another script, which is going to be our spawn manager script. You can name it again whatever you please and like. So if you know what you want to do, like if you create a rather new to coding and stuff like that, it is important that you understand how to or where to place things. What does it mean? It does mean just think about whatever you want to code first and split up all the ideas you're going to have. Like, okay, I want to place Sharky somewhere left or right, so I need a random decision, something. then I want to make it so that since Sharky already orientates on its own and defines its moving, let's say, direction, which is also rather simple here, we gonna go and want to talk also, as I said before, to the order and layer thing. So just keep all of that information in mind, especially when you're new to coding. This should help you out to split your huge problem. Hey, I want to use Sharky and do this and that and this and that. Split it up in small problems. That makes stuff literally simpler in the end. I need to close the script because I have a little bug here. So I'm gonna open Spawn Manager now. I'm gonna take a small break, just a minute, to drink something, and then we continue. Okie dokie, let's go forward. But not with enemy, but Spawn Manager. So what does Spawn Manager need to know? First off, who to spawn. So what we can do is object array, where we're gonna put all our prefabs into. So we can name this something like enemy prefabs. Usually I use lists if I have to change prefab. I use lists if I have to change the collection. If I don't have to change it, so literally if it is an array, it is kind of static. So meaning if you need to change something inside an array, you need to copy it first, resize the new array, and then bring back whatever you had in the array. Lists are dynamically changing in size. That's why I prefer using lists if needed. But for our purpose, just for a fixed amount of enemy prefabs, which would be 3 in total, probably 4, depending if we're gonna put in something special, like a super fast, super small something going from left to right super quick. Then we're gonna have 4. What does the Spawn Manager need to know? Well, first off, who to spawn, then where his spawn points are. So we're gonna put in a public transform. I guess the transform is easier to read because we don't have to go GameObject.transform.yada. So in this case, we just use a plain transform. So we can say we use that directly inside the instantiation method. Whenever we need to instantiate the fish, we know, okay, take a left or right. Spawn point based on whatever, a dice roll between 1 and 0 or 2 and 0. Something like that. Use another expression, just take a look and see how it goes. So we need a L spawn point. I'm gonna name it L spawn. And then we have a R spawn or right spawn. R spawn. So that's where our 2 little empty game objects are going to be placed into. At start, do we need to do anything in start? Probably we need to start a coroutine, but I don't want to have this in the update loop. I want to create the spawning stuff, which is going to run meanwhile the game runs. Meanwhile that, I want to run repetitive stuff into a coroutine, or B, using invoke methods. So one or the other. That depends a bit on what we really want to do. Inside that, we can use for loops, while loops, all the other loops, whatever needed, as well as we can make this time-based. So we can say, what is the difference, what is the spawn time in between the spawn and the next spawn? That's where we can use some yield operator or parameter, which is actually necessary for a coroutine. So coroutine is defined, i.e. numerator basically does the same thing as an update loop, but we can end it at any time. Update never ends. So, and runs 60 times a second for probably no reason. So i.e. numerator, and we can name this spawn enemies, something like that. We don't need any arguments, at least not for the moment. Sometimes is necessary, but hard to decide. We need a spawn time. I don't want to make this public. It's just a float. It's the interval between two spawns. Well, maybe we name it in a spawn interval. Spawn interval. If you want to make it a bit more, let's say, useful when you go and sell this as a prefab, not a prefab, but as a prototype. If you want to sell the prototype or give it to somebody to play around with it or do something with it, you probably want to keep spawn interval as being private over here, but give them a min and a maximum spawn interval so they can play around with some timings in there. So something like a public float, a min interval and a max interval, so they get an idea about it in max interval. So they can play around with these numbers. And you can say, okay, the smallest interval is going to be somewhere like 1f, and the maximum interval could be something like, I don't know, 3f. And they can play around in the console, like, well, not in the console, but in the inspector, play around with these numbers and decide on their own. You can also use some sliders like range parameters for that, up to you. So the spawn interval, every time we go and start here, we first off want to make sure that we get any interval between this number and this number. So we're gonna go with spawn interval. We need to do this like every iteration. I'm gonna take a look into this in a second. The spawn interval is equal to a random dot range number between the min interval and the max interval. So whatever we take. So we have a randomness here in between those spawns. You need this like for hundreds of things. This is something we're gonna need to put into. So now we want to decide who do we want to spawn. Then we need to decide where do we want to spawn, left or right. And once we do the spawn, we can give him the parameters, like which enemy, or we actually pick or get the enemy component and take a look into this boolean, which we currently have created public. We can set up something like a little function which passes over something, because we may want to differentiate speed here as well. So all of that is possible, right? So we have, so that way we have even more flexibility in total. Okay, so now we have this interval. What do we want to pick first is who do we want to spawn. But let's skip the who first. Let's see where do we want to spawn. So first off, I need to create a random spawn. So, or let's say a new spawn, or let's say current spawn. Now we can decide here. We want to set the current spawn point, which we use per iteration. Again, once again, we don't have this stuff yet. The current spawn is going to be chosen between L and R spawn. How do we do this? Well, basically we can also throw a dice. That could be something like, okay, we throw a dice between 0 and 2. Whenever it is 2, then we take, or a 1 in this case, we're gonna take the right spawn, otherwise use the red spawn, the left spawn. To do this, we're gonna take an integer and say spawn, whatever. And this is going to be a random number, random.range between 0, 2. Why do I use 2? Well, the 2 is never reached in random.range. It's the last number is never fully reached. So it always takes 0 or 1, but it never uses 2. So if there would be a 5 here, the highest number would be 4. Keep that in mind. So now what we can say, we put the expression again. If spawn is equal to 0, then we need our question mark, just as we did before. Then we can say we use L spawn. Otherwise, so colon, we use R spawn. And then we make that. So super simple. We basically have the first, the expression. Again, usually I put this into parentheses. So it's most of the time it's easier to read. So you see, okay, based on the expression, we're gonna use, if the result of spawn here is 0, we use the left side, otherwise we use the right side. And then since that is randomly created, it can be more or less over here. Cool. So next one is we now know when to spawn, we now know where to spawn, now we need to know how to spawn or what to spawn. So in that case, we create a new game object with a big G because, well, we need to talk to it. That's why we need to catch that first. So game object new fish or new enemy is equal to instantiate. First things first, what do we want to instantiate? Question. And you get the answer. We can say int, we create a new, basically we do the same thing as here. I just copy that. It's easier. Or actually it's not easier, but faster. So int, now we can say, let's say enemy. That's the enemy to pick. We are using the index now of the array. So the array, the smallest number in the array is a 0. So we have to start at 0. Then we want to take the maximum amount of prefabs, which is going to be enemy prefabs dot length. If you use a list, then it's going to be enemy prefabs dot count, because count is used in lists instead of length. We don't go and negate this by 1 because random.range is doing that automatically for us. Because if the length of the array would be 3, the last number would be 2. The last element is going to be 2. So this is important. So now we know who to spawn, and now we can go and directly pick it. So we can say first, what do we want to spawn? We want to spawn the enemy prefabs at the index we just created beforehand, like this random integer index. And now we can tell where do we want to spawn that. So in that case, we can say the parent, but also we can say we can rotation, and here we got a position like a vector. And this is what we are going to use. The rotation is literally not necessary because the fish is going to do it on its own. Hopefully, we will see in a second. So the position is going to be current spawn dot position. And then we need to, I guess we need to have the quaternion dot identity over here. So the rotation, again, it doesn't matter the rotation, but we need to implement this. Why did we catch new enemy? Because we need to talk to enemy and say, hey, you have been left or you have been right. So we need to give the actual information to the fish now, to the enemy. So we gonna say new enemy dot get component. We need to get the component of type enemy. So we need this triangle brackets. We take the enemy script, which should sit on this object. Then we're gonna go into has started left. And this needs to be set again by us depending on whatever the spawn was. So in that case, we're gonna set has started left to be equal to based on what spawn was. So if spawn, we do literally the same thing as we do here. We take this expression, copy, paste. We set it to if spawn has been left, then we say here true. But oh wait, we can even do it a bit different as well. We should be able to use if spawn is equal to 0 without doing that. Otherwise, we're gonna use false. But I guess, yep, that's what I meant. Is now it tells me, hey, we can shorten that because it's redundant. We can just say it by the condition. So if the spawn is equal to 0, I mean it's this number, then started left is going to be automatically been set to be true. Pretty good. That's everything we need for the fish. Now we need to do this interval thing. The first fish, we can start with the first fish whenever we want to. Whenever we start with the coroutine, we can start directly. We can iterate through that. So we go through all the code, and at the very end, we need to tell something like yield return new, wait for seconds. And now we want to wait for a couple of seconds, and the seconds we want to wait for is the spawn interval in this iteration. But currently we don't have an iteration yet, so we want to use a while loop over here and encapsulate the complete code inside this while loop. The while loop just says, hey, I'm true, I can run indefinitely. So basically it's doing the same thing as a update loop. But we can also implement even more expressions over here. We can say, meanwhile, for example, the game is running, or the time is not over, or whatever. Meanwhile, that is going to be true. The while loop runs, otherwise it just passes out, doesn't spawn any fish anymore, and so on. In the start, we want to say start coroutine, open close parentheses, and what do we want to start for is the spawn enemies coroutine, open close parentheses inside that, and close the line with the semicolon. Don't forget to save, and let's take a look. If you have not subscribed already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as well as leave a comment, say hello in the chat to everybody here, and let's talk if you want to. So in Spawn Manager, we now need to put in the lSpawn into the lSpawn transform, and the rightSpawn in the rightSpawn. Then we have the minimum and the maximum interval we are going to pick from automatically. And in here we got the list. Basically, it's an array. It's not really a list, but it's called a list in the inspector with no prefabs yet. Usually I do create, let me create a folder first for all the scripts. So scripts, so it's easier for us and for the future. Also, if you work with somebody else together, make sure you have everything organized. Yeah, I need to create another folder where, once it lets me, where I'm gonna put all my prefabs. So prefabs, important. You can put in subfolders over here, of course, so prefabs for enemies, prefabs for this, prefabs for that, prefabs for birds, for something special, I don't know, for little flies or bees or whatever you want to implement here. So I'm going to take Sharky and put it here into the prefabs folder, so we can reuse Sharky. You can see he has now a blue box. Blue box means it's a prefab now. So what is a prefab? A prefab is nothing else than a template. And we can change something to the template if we want to, depending on where the pivot point of Sharky is going to be. That's where it's going to spawn at this position here. And Sharky should do the rest because he's already auto-rotating to wherever he should do. In Spawn Manager, we can delete Sharky, at least for the moment. We cannot shoot him yet, but we can put him already in the list. So we go prefabs and drag him here into enemy prefabs. We don't destroy him yet as well, like when he reaches some positions. Let's see how much Sharkies we are going to see. So we got one from the right, we got one from the left, another one from the left, and so on and so forth. And we're gonna keep gathering a bunch of Sharky over here, and the kids should be able to touch them sooner or later. We haven't touched one thing. We haven't touched the order in layer. And what we can do is we can do this directly in start from whenever we create Sharky or any other enemy, that he's going to be more to the left, more to the right. Also, we probably can lift them a bit up or down based on that. Also, I find Sharky is rather huge, so maybe I'm gonna go and shrink him down a bit. So to do changes, we can do two things. Well, direct changes need to be directly inside the prefab, but if you say, hey, it's a bit too huge, we should be able to scale him down, or there should be another way instead of scaling. Let's use the 2D tool. Yes, we can do this in here. Let's see if we can do something like that. Okay, it is still using the scale. I guess there is something we can do with that, but scale does not really matter. Let me go with Shift. Holding down Shift over corner is going to keep the actual, what is it called? Well, you know what I mean, right? The actual size something. So it's scaled down, you know, uniformly, literally. Cool. So when we do a change like that, like a scale, we go to overrides here on the top and say apply all. So the prefab itself now stores the scale amount we were changing Sharky to. Okay, let's try again. We go for the order and layer in just a second. But I guess you know already how that works, right? So now Sharky is a bit smaller. We can fill the scene a bit more with the different fish. The shortest interval seems to be too short in my opinion, so I guess a 2 is better. And probably we go up to a 5 maybe. And don't forget to save the scene in between, so if you so you don't lose anything if the while loop crashes or something like that, right? This sun here needs to have a default layer of -10 or something, so it's not in the way when Sharky is going to be there or something else is flying over or under or something like that. So it's rather much in the background, even if it is at the same height or whatever, it doesn't matter really. Well, 3D wise it doesn't matter because of the Sprite Renderer component over here. Nice. Let's take a look into the code again for Sharky. I just ripped them apart here, so that's why my compiler has rerun. Okay, I need to close that. Again, I have a little bug there. Doesn't matter. I need to open enemy script just in case and change the order and layer, and probably we go and do a height change as well based on order and layer. For example, we can put in something just a bit different. So we can also see something which is going to be higher when the number is lower, literally. So literally doing the opposite. How do we do this? Well, has started left works perfectly. Yes, green lizards. That's what I'm working on. So that's what we're gonna go now into. What we need to know is the Sprite Renderer component. We can pick it up directly at start, or we can put that by hand inside the inspector. So in that case, we go probably with the first one. Just we grab it from the object. So we need to have the Sprite Renderer component in which that is going to be in. We can use any name, SP. We need to get it, or actually, we can even do this different. We can use something like GameObject.getComponent Sprite Renderer, open close parentheses, and now we should be able to choose order in layer or sorting order. What is it called here? It seems to be sorting order, but it is an integer. Renderer.sorting order. Let me take a look pretty quick. I guess it should be that. But it's the additional settings, order and layer. That's what I would go and need to take a look into pretty quick in the Unity to the Unity, what is it called? The scripting API. So if you don't know what's going on and if the sorting order is really the one you're looking for, then you can go always into the scripting API. Scripting API. Sprite Renderer. So in there you should always find everything about the sprite. So if you go here, you should see what is going to be part of the Sprite Renderer. So it inherits from Renderer, and in Renderer we should have something like the sorting order. Render order in within the sorting layer. So basically that doesn't seem to be the correct one, I guess. So the order in layers should be probably inside Sprite. Maybe the Sprite has the sorting order. Because it's under additional, Let me take a look pretty quick. Sprite Renderer dot sprite dot is there an order? No, there's no order in layer. We can take a look into the sorting layer, but I guess it's not the right one. Sorting layer ID, sorting layer name, sprite sort point. If you guys have the answer, just feel free to let me know. I'm gonna go and take a look into the scripting API again. So this is something you always have to encounter. You always have to go into and check out the code and how it's written. And where to look into this is, of course, always go sorting order, renderer's order within a sorting layer. So that doesn't seem to be the correct one. I mean, it's not, code-wise it doesn't make sense because it's called different, but we'll see. I'm gonna Google again or do anything else. Gonna take a second, I'm sorry for that. Sprite, what did I name it? Maybe it's that. It seems to be that there's a sorting group component. I'm not quite sure. But let's take a look into the documentation. Oh, that's rather old. Sorting order should be correct. Okay, let's take a look. You can't randomize layer numbers because you may have two enemies the same number. Yeah, that's why, I mean, sometimes it might happen. And it will happen. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, you have sometimes this clipping, but do kids know about it? Well, we don't know. But you should be able to randomize them still, I guess. So let's take a look into the sorting order. Now we should be able to randomize that still anyhow. But where did I had it? It was in the Sprite Renderer component. Maybe I need to convert something into an integer, or I just give it a random number between negative numbers. Let's see if that works. Random.range between, let's say, -1 and negative, I don't know, 6, 10, 8, actually 9. Why not? And let's see if that works. I have no idea. We'll see. Don't forget to save. Yes, you should be able to, at Green Lizard, you should be able to take occupied numbers to have not the same one, but then, well, it might not go correct. I mean, you can't, because sometimes you have so many things on the screen that you have to have a bunch, like a random number between 1 and 100 or something. So it makes more sense to have multiple enemies on screen here as well. Will it be complicated to manage? Well, not really. Just store it in a list and take a look. Okay, so number 1 is going to be Reservoir in the background. The other one as well. I'm gonna click on them in a second. I just want to wait. Probably between these numbers is a bit too high, so maybe I'm gonna use between -1 and -4, since the highest one is going to be 3, so they don't over push it or overdo it. But let me click on them and see if they have a difference. So you can see this guy here now is a -7. This one is a -7. This one is a -3 now, and this is a -5. So this is manageable through just a random picked integer between a random number A and B. So you guys were correct. So the sorting order is going to be correct. It's just named wrong. Well, why ever? Nobody knows, right? Oh, you're just... Okay, just kidding. Okay, so let's take a look how Sharky is going to look. So now you can see the difference between the waves. So this one is behind. This one is like between the first and the second, like render-wise. This one as well. Maybe we get somebody in the very front over here. Of course, they have a different height. They don't have a different height yet, but we can take a look into this. I want to wait until I get probably a -1 or a 0. Let's see. That seems to be rather rare. Of course, you still have this clipping on the same height there. But again, you can go around it rather simple. I just wait until I get a -1. I would like to see one at least, so we can make sure that it is actually implemented. There we go. There's the -1. As you can see over here, this guy is in between those two. This guy as well. So it's rather random which one gets picked at the first place. What we now can do is, based on this random number, we can store that number as well beforehand, and then based on the result we were picking here randomly in the sorting order, we should be able to also lift these guys a bit up or down based on the actual height or based on this number. So we add something to it, like do a plus something on y-axis. How can we do this? Well, for that we can use an extended expression, or we can use a switch, like a switch statement. You guys probably know switch already. It's literally something like if else, if else, if else. A switch is making it easier to read, but beforehand we want to store this number so we know the result, so we can know how much we want to lift up or maybe bring down the fish based on the result, based on the spawn point, of course. And same for all the other enemies as well, so we have different heights there as well. So how does it work? Well, first off, we take the result, like let's say the layer or the order in layer, and we're gonna store the result of random.range in this, so we can do the switch. And in here we just use the result, so actually we use order in layer. Now we can say we add to transform the position y, like up and down, times whatever, or plus or minus whatever. For example, transform, no, let's do a switch statement first. So a switch, again, works like that. Then what do we want to switch to or take a look at is going to be order and layer. And in here we need to do some cases. So a case would be, or some cases would be -1 is going to be 1, and then we need to break out of the switch. And so since we have 3 results and totals, we could also go for a default state. We're going to go for the result -2, and we can go for the negative result 3. So if we are at 1, we are literally far more to the front of the camera, so I want to bring the y-axis of the enemy a bit down, maybe 0.5, 0.3. We need to test that out. So we can say something like transform the position minus equal. We can also say plus equal, basically doesn't matter. In here, plus equal new vector 3. And then here we can say 0, 0, 0. And now we can say, okay, we want to put this one a -1. You can, if you use full numbers, you can also use something like vector 3 to up or down, and so on. So we add a negative number, so it's still a negative number. When it is 2, we probably don't want to do anything. We want to stay where we are. And if it is 3, we want to lift it up, so maybe we do opposite. We're going to add a 1. For the moment, just for testing, later on you can play around with these numbers, I guess. Let's take a look. So based on the layer order, we can now switch through the order and layer, which is randomized, and so we should also see a height difference over here. Let's see if that works. So this one stays where it is, like, yeah, where this fish is. It's the same order and layer now. Let's hope that we get a different one. Still the same. Randomness sometimes sucks, but now you can see the one at the back is a bit higher. It's like 1 unit higher than the ones in the middle. And if we get one at the bottom like this one, it is even further down, like 1 unit downwards. So we have like a bit more of a depth or feeling over here. Like if we would see another one in the center coming anywhere, we should see that this one is a bit lower than the one in the center. But currently I don't have luck in getting one because oh yeah, there we go. Now we can see that difference. Pretty cool. There's one thing. Well, no, everything works. It's just giving a left and a right. Well, everything works literally. So what do we need? We need more fish. Maybe we're gonna put some more movement up and down if we want to. I don't know. Maybe we can use something with a sine wave. I don't really like it. What I would like to try is animating the fish up and down. But now you think, okay, how could that work? Well, the downside. Okay, there are two things. Let's take a look first at the fish itself. The fish itself has a pivot point over here. It's every information about the fish is going to be directly here on himself, but the graphic is changing with it. So what does it mean is, meanwhile we move it left and right, we may not be able to animate it up and down because the left and right is driven probably also driven by the animation, by the animator component. To check that out, that's what I would go first off, is go to animation, and create a new clip. And we name this, I go to animations, I name this fish up and down, or enemy, just enemy, because it's an enemy. So what's the issue? The issue is if we go to the transform component, which we want to change here, we want to change the position. But as you can tell, it stores X, Y, and Z position. So it's take the current position. If we animate only one, it is we cannot say, hey, we don't want this property because it is always storing the X and the Y coordinate. Well, usually. So if we would go and try to animate, let's say, this Y value, I'm gonna do a put here, and I just move it up, okay, like that. So if I would play now, it would always do that, which is okay. There's no issue with that. But meanwhile, you can see it resets the position X and Y, or X and Z as well. It keeps the animation at this point. I want you to understand that, so I'm gonna play now the game, and we're gonna see, I go out of maximize and play, we're gonna see that in a sec. As you can tell now, all the created fishes, no matter if they are left or right, they pop automatically to the animated part because X and Z value are still stored. How can we fix that, you may ask? So to do that, we need to change the actual prefab behavior just a bit. So we're gonna keep the animator component on it, but we take away enemy script. We take away, we maybe go and change the script a bit. So, but before we do so, we first off create an empty game object. I zero this one out, reset it. And this is going to be now my enemy. And everything as a child is going to be my graphic. Graphic in its case, in its way. I reset it maybe to 0, 0, 0 if I want to, can to, have to. And now enemy needs to have the actual script about the enemy because there's the movement on it, right? There's one more flaw about it. The enemy, this game object does not contain a sprite renderer. And because of that, we need to go and use the sprite renderer component here, but we cannot get it directly on this, but we need to get the component in children. Otherwise, we are not able to talk to the sprite renderer itself. Now we should be able to move the object, like this plane enemy. I'm gonna rename it not enemy. Enemy doesn't make sense, because this is it is still Sharky, right? So enemy Sharky maybe. And this basically we need to open or prefab unpack. We unpack the prefab so we don't use that anymore. I get rid of Sharky here. And we're gonna create a new enemy Sharky, and in Spawn Manager we need to go and put enemy Sharky now in this. Now, when we get rid of that, he should still do the same thing, and its graphic thing as well, if we haven't done any failure or issue, and he should be able to swim up and down, meanwhile doing movement left and right. Pretty cool, huh? Now we can work on the actual animations a bit. We can make it higher or slower or smaller or something like that. We can even go and do changes to the scale a bit here and there. It also looks like that some fishes are a bit bigger than others. I have no idea why that is going to be, but it does look as it. Probably it's a 3D thing. I don't know. But yeah, this way we can give animations to graphics, but do script stuff to others. Yeah, it's funny that this fish looks bigger than this fish, but they do have the same scale. They just have a different y-axis. It's just higher, but it looks bigger. Don't ask me why. Anyway, pretty cool. So now we can do the rest. Rest mean we need an area to be able to click on Sharky, get some points, and then we are literally done with a rather simple shooting prototype. Oh, by the way, I wanted to scale the sun to give it a bit more flair here. So what I want to do is I just scale the sun a bit, up and down, or big and small. Just super small, nothing fancy, just a bit. Sometimes a bit is more than too much. Animation, create a new. Go into animations, just name it sun, just to get a bit something. You can directly record it, or you can go with scale directly as a property and use that here. You can say something like, I just want to scale this a bit. Hit R to scale, record, and then we just go just a bit. Press play. That's pretty good. Maybe a bit slower. So stop that. We take all keys, and that's okay. We want to scale that up to a 2-second animation in total. If you want to, you can also go with 3, so there's plenty of time. So as you can see, something small, nothing fancy, nothing too much, is going to animate. Like when we are repositioning that, it doesn't matter because we don't care about position, but as you can see, it's just something small which is giving us a bit more feeling. Same if we later on want to go with birds and clouds, literally the same stuff. Cool. I'm gonna drink a little one. Now let's take a look into hit zone, because we don't know how to hit an enemy, right? And how to damage or how to get points. I mean, you guys may know, but some others may not. How does it work? Well, first off, we need to define an area to get this hit on Sharky and on each other of these enemies as well. There are plenty of possibilities we do have. Example, if we got a graphic like a Sprite Renderer component, we should be able to add a Polygon Collider 2D, but as you can see, the Polygon Collider does automatically use the stick as well. If you want that, then there's no issue with this. Otherwise, you can go and take this bottom points of the Polygon Collider. There's this tool here. You can, or you should be able to take them and drag them up. Hopefully, I'm not quite sure if we can delete them, like with the right mouse button. No, not really. But we should be able to have a list of passes and points, and I don't know, we should be able to drag them anyhow up here. I don't know where they come from and where they go to. Just check it out. So we could use the Polygon Collider, right? The Polygon Collider, the cool thing about it is it uses the actual cutout shape of our transparent graphic, and we can make use of that. Again, if you don't care about the stick, that's fine. If you want to have the stick as a separated graphic, so it's not directly or automatically hid, it's okay as well. So you just have a second graphic literally just for the stick at the bottom, layer wise, under your fish or whatever graphic, which would be perfectly fine here. And then the Polygon Collider would only lay over the actual graphic. The opposite, or the other way, would be if you don't want to have that like directly in Sharky. I'm gonna delete that, remove component. We can also go directly here and use I guess there's a circle collider today, and it has a size and it gets created directly and automatically on the pivot point. We should be able to move that. Let's see if that works. So basically, let's say we want to hit them just here anywhere. We should be able to use an offset as well as a radius. So first off, we go offset over X and negative or positive on Y. So this is going to be my hit zone, and we can increase or decrease the radius of that, and that should be fine here. We also want to make sure that this is going to be a trigger, so it notifies that and does not push away other fish which are going to be possibly dragging away each other. So we can say, okay, this is our trigger zone. Again, Polygon Collider for kids games might be easier because they can even hit them on a fin, or if they are too slow on touching the screen or using the mouse, then they have a higher chance to hit a fish. Okay, cool. So now we have this collider. Probably this is not 1%, but probably we need to differentiate with, let's say, or we need to shoot a ray and see if we hit a collider with a tag or something like this, right? So, and for that case, we may or may not you have to use a rigid body component as well. Okay, so we should be able to also use them as, nope, that's not possible, but let's go with that. Let's go with that idea. So if we hit an enemy with the mouse, so we now need input values for our mouse. So where's the mouse? Where do we touch? What do we hit? Like whenever we do a click, a mouse click, at a position we want to shoot a ray, for example, we can shoot a ray. We should also be able to use, if we, like for kids games, we may not need to have even that. We probably don't even need to use a Polygon Collider or any type of collider. Why, you may ask? Let's assume we don't have a collider and we are in the enemy script. We have the update loop, everything is fine. But Unity provides a function which is called on mouse enter or exit or over or what was the last one? A click or so, or down? On mouse down. But let's assume we say on mouse over. I believe that should be the check out the scripting API. You will see that. If we do so, we want to get a debug line, a debug.log, and we want to know who we are over. So let me know, let me know the game object's name, game object.name. I don't know, something like that. Let's see if that works. If I go in play mode over the object, and this means the whole object, because that is using a raycast as well. If we are over this object, we want to know if we are going over into Sharky. So I just hit Sharky. I want to see if that one here triggers as well. And as you can see now, this one did not trigger the console. Only the shark with the collider in the center was getting the information. As you can see here, enemy Sharky was the only one who got the information. Hey, I'm hitting with my mouse, I'm hitting the circle collider. So the cool part is, well, there's one downside, as you have seen. The downside is that the collider itself does not animate with it up and down. And to do that, or to change that, we need to make sure that we make a child of Sharky, because Sharky is going to be the one, you know. So how do we do this? We can say we copy the component, go to Sharky, and here we say, where is it? On any of these dashed guys, and say paste component as new, and we get rid of the circle collider here, and see again if that still works, because the enemy script does not have the circle collider or any connection to it, but we'll get there. We'll take a look. I'm gonna remove this component here, and we're gonna have now the circle collider 2D over here on this guy. It seems that the offset has been changed. I just lifted up to see if we still get the console full with information. Now you can see the circle collider goes up and down, it wiggles, but we don't get the info because the script is not connected to the circle collider. So this is going to be an issue, right? So best way would be we're gonna have to connect them anyhow, or what else could we do? Well, we could bring this one back, but increase the size of that would be a possibility, because the collider is not going up and down in the Y because it's animated, right? So on the other hand, we might be able to animate the collider. Well, probably not. I don't know. But what we can also do is everything about the hit could also be part, like we're gonna have like just a damage script not being in the enemy part. Literally, we can also put this on a child object, like a secondary one, where we get the points from, where we're gonna check for the unmouse over thing. That does work as well. The downside is that it is kind of wiggly. Not quite sure why that is the case. I would make it a bit bigger. I'm gonna check it out just a second again, just to make sure. Well, it's weird, and there's something at the bottom which I haven't seen before. What is that? What is the wiggly part there? It's some circle thing. So I guess it's more for a 2D thing. So we have just rotated that. It's something we shouldn't see. That's what we're gonna take a look into pretty quick. We shouldn't see when we disable gizmos. Yep, that's right. So we don't see that when these gizmos are disabled in the view. Okay, so to do the best thing, or to do one more thing, or to do any kind of thing, I just create a new C# script and use or create a damage script, or a points, or a score script. You can name it whatever you want. And we open this up pretty quick. And we take now script A, extract the onMouse over function, and put this onto where the collider is, so the collider is notifying this information about it. Just give it a second to load. Open damage script, and we don't need start and update yet, but we later on may need a connection to somewhere else. Like from enemy, we're gonna take now this onMouse over thing, gonna cut it out, save the script, and bring this into damage, because in here we now can, do anything we want. For example, we can say, if we are hitting the mouse, the left mouse, if input dot mouse button down, get mouse button down, I guess. And then we need to define the number 0, in this case the left mouse button. If we click that, then we want to say debug.log. We can also say we got score or something. Debug.log hit. And then we can also say we want to destroy the game object, like destroy. What do we want to destroy? Actually, we want to destroy transform.parent.gameObject. Why do we need to destroy the parent object? Because it holds the everything. It does the movement and all the other stuff. Let's try that out. I'm gonna save. I bring the damage script to the child object because there's the collision. Put it here. And I'm gonna override Sharky now because we have applied the collider. We want to make sure that all of our Sharkies do have a collider. I'm gonna get rid of that. And let's see if we can hit a Sharky with our mouse. Click. Boom. And Sharky is gone. We got a hit. We can see this in the bottom left. Or we can also check the console. We did a hit. And we now should be able to get score. Because we are able to literally shoot them down, or we are able to touch them. For kids, we never do shooting stuff. Well, young kids, right? But we touched him, so he's gone, and we get some score. And the more fish we are able to get, the more score we now can do or put together. So to get score, you probably want to create a new game object just to keep all organized. Name it Score Manager. You can also put it in the Game Manager. And for now, we need a new script which holds all the score we got. Score Manager. We can make it static if we want to go for that score into the next scene. If you want to hold it, like for a next level or something. But we can also do it super simply. Just per round, we're gonna count up as much as we can. We can later on save that as an integer. We just need to define how much score each fish is going to give us, or give them. So we don't need start, we don't need update, at least not for the moment. And we're gonna go and make this one a singleton first. So public static. We can also go directly for static, so we don't really need to have we don't really need to do this. But per each round, we want to reset the current score. Public static score manager instance, and in void awake, we can say, well, it's not a full singleton, but at least a piece of that. We can just say we define instance is equal to this, so we don't need the destroy on load thing. It's not really necessary for this little one here. Now we want to add score, and we need to have a number, or actually we need a variable which holds the score. It's the type integer because I want to get always full score, and it's just our score. And if you don't, we don't really need to want that public. Probably it's better to keep it private, but create a function which is public, which adds a score to it, so we cannot have it more dynamic. Public void add score. We can also pass in negative numbers, so we want to pass in any kind of amount as an argument in this. And the last thing is we want to say score plus equal whatever the amount is which is coming in. And that's literally everything we need to do here. We need to call score before we destroy the game object, otherwise it's not called anymore. So everything needs to become passed over before the destroying is happening. If you need a little timing, you can also always put a time in the destroy method by putting a comma, and let's say we want to destroy this after 1 second. So you have a bit time there before something is going to happen. Now what we want to do is we want to talk to score manager dot instance. Now we want to add a score, and we need to know what is the score for our enemy or from our enemy. So a Sharky might have this and that amount. Now it's a bit tricky. The tricky part comes from we can read from the enemy itself, because maybe we don't want to have this directly in the on mouse over function, or at least not in script. So the whoever is the user may not want to go in the sub object to take a look into where can I change the score. So what we can do is in enemy we can put the score, so we have that always on screen, score for hit, or just score. The type is integer as well. I make it public because so I can access that at any time. We can start with a score of 1 over here, so it's showing up directly correct. Now we can read now from the game object's parent object and get the enemy itself from damage. We can also do this on start, or we do this whenever we need to. So in that case, we can say transform.parent.gameObject.getComponent. Now we get the enemy script, and then here we want to get we say open close parentheses dot score, as it shows us already. We want to get that, and now we can put this into the score over here, and the score manager is going to take that and get its information about it. Again, if you need some time, you can put in something like a 0. Maybe it takes half a second or so to get this information. We can put something like a 0.5 over here before the object really gets destroyed. Like, it's not direct, it's like a little offset of the probably if somebody hits it twice, we want to make sure that we protect it so it is already destroyed, so we cannot do the same thing. In that case, I would implement a bool is destroyed, just to protect it, is equal to false, and whenever we click on that, like before we do anything else, we want to make sure that is destroyed is equal to true. And in this, if we have been destroyed already, like if we click a second time, if is destroyed already, then we want to return. We don't want to go further. Return. So if it has been destroyed, we want to return. We don't want to do this because we have been destroyed, but we want at the same time or afterwards, we want to make sure that we set it to be as destroyed. Yeah, we could also deactivate the collider. Basically, it doesn't matter. It depends on what you want to do later on with the collider as well. So both ways work. You can use a boolean, or you can use the collider to not work anymore. But both works. So literally, otherwise we need to go and say, okay, get the component collider, whatever the collider is, and deactivate .enabled equal false. That's right. Or even just use a simple boolean and say, hey, I am destroyed, don't touch me again. So return whenever you click a second time, so you don't get scored twice. Now let's take a look if that works. First off, in Score Manager, we want to make sure I enable the debug mode so I can see the score. It's grayed out here. It's not a serialized field, that's why it's not visible. But let's hunt down one fish. Yeah, the offset is a bit too huge, but in Score Manager, I need to go again and debug. We got one score over here. So we get now score and points and stuff like that without any issues. I'm gonna reduce the time to 0.1 since I guess half a second is a bit too huge for that delay. And so I try again to tap. I try to tap twice, pretty quick, and see if that works. I was quite fast, but I don't think that I got it. Go here, debug. Yeah, I still get only one score over there. Nice. That's it. Basically, we can now implement a time in which counts downwards, and you get this and that amount of time. And we can also put in more fish. So since Sharky is done, he has set it up correctly. We can use its prefab and change its parameters and make a new prefab out of it. For example, we go to Sharky here. I go out of debug mode because it's too much info. And I go in Sharky sprite first and use a clamp. So now what I need to do is I need to go and move this over here. I can also make it a bit smaller, something like that, lift it a bit up. You can be as precise as you want to. And I want to rename that to be clamp or clam I don't know how to write that. Score for a clam might be 2. And speed might be, I don't know, 4 or 3.5. You need to play around with that anyways. I renamed this one to be, I guess it's clam. Need to get a translator. And now I drag it in here, make a new original prefab. So I have a clam instead of a shark. And that's it. And now we can also do this other guy, the other bad guy there, which may have speed of 5 or 3, no, maybe 4. Oh, well, we don't know, I don't know. And that's going to be my enemy bad guy, whatever. What is it called? Something. My enemy Spike. It's not a bad guy. I just name him Spike again. Spike. And here I'm gonna name it Spike as well. And the cool part is we can also get negative numbers. So when we add it with a negative number like simple mathematics, we're gonna be able to get all of that. We can make it super small. We can also make it super big. We can cheat a bit, because if you touch that thing, it's going to hurt, right? So X is okay, going to be down a bit here. And we can make the trigger zone again big or small, however we want. And like 2. So we can, you know, cheat them down a bit, so don't touch that. We could make that even higher radius. I don't know. So this is something people can play around with, up to them. Enemy Spike needs to have a new original prefab. We can play around with speed values, and score is going to be something like negative 5, maybe. And we need to update that directly in, let's see. Oh, it has been stored. Pretty good. Now in Spawn Manager, we want to make sure that we are able to spawn a clam and spawn a spike. I don't have anything else yet, but maybe we want to make some super fast but super small fish as well. So Spiky is pretty fast. We get a negative number if we hit him. Then we get a clam here. We can shoot him down. And now we can make it more interesting if we get more creatures in the field. So now the spawn time might be a bit too small for the Spawn Manager minimum maximum interval. So maybe between 1 and 3 might be a bit more or a bit better. Even smaller ones should be able to give us a big playfield. So as you can see, they have different sizes. If one is in front of another, you cannot hit the one which is behind it. So which is cool. It seems so that works. We don't have luck yet. But if I hit here, let's see if I can do that test like now, or like now. I couldn't hit the other guy because the other collider, because it was ordered and layer in front. But I want to test this, or you guys need to test this as well if you are playing around with such things. So I can even go and get this guy, which is cool, even if I get negative points for that. But yeah, that's pretty nice. We have a lot of things. We did a lot of things here. Again, the last thing is just a simple timer which counts down if the round is over. You can put this directly in Score Manager if you want to, or you put a Game Manager together, because you also want to have like a win and a lose scenario. You can put this literally wherever you want to. But the Score Manager already has a static instance, so maybe you want to use that. I don't know, up to you. So what you can do now is you create a float and name this like a timer. And we are starting at 60, something like that. And now you don't have to use the update loop. So we say void update. Well, I don't like to use the update. Maybe it's easier or better to decrease the time, like using a coroutine. Maybe it's better. So IE numerator timer, close parentheses, open close curly brace, and now we can say while the timer is bigger than 0, we want to run this while loop. Be careful with while loops, sometimes they're really picky. Meanwhile this runs, we want to say timer minus equal time dot delta time, so we reduce the time constantly, and once we are out of this while loop, we want to say something like debug.log, and then we can say time is over, and then we can say something like your final score. You can put this in UI and stuff like that. Pretty simple. Your time is over, or your final score is, and then we can say plus, and now we can take score here as a parameter at the very end, and then we should be good to go. So this is like, and we can show timer. You can convert it, you can show it in UI and stuff like that. Hi Robin, thanks a lot for tuning in. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. What we need to do is we need to implement a yield statement in this while loop, so we can say something like yield return null. We don't return anything, we just wait. Sometimes it doesn't like me. Return null. So now we have no red line anymore because we are just returning null here. We are just reducing the time once time has passed and the timer's coroutine is at the end. We're gonna get this. It passes out of the actual timer. What we could do is we can put this with this timer. We can use the timer. We can read it from outside at any time and in the spawn manager. So we don't spawn any more creatures once this time has been passed. So basically it's the same thing. We just read timer constantly and see where it is. If you want to, you can make it public so it's easier to read, or you create a function like a public float. So you just return a float in this case, read timer, something like this, open close parentheses, open close curly brace, and in here we just return whatever timer at the current time is going to be. And once you are able, don't forget to save, once you are able to read the timer, we can go into the spawn manager and say, instead of while true, we can say something like while score manager. Once again, use game manager, is a bit cleaner. While score manager dot instance dot read, no, not that, but read timer, open close parentheses, is bigger than 0. Basically, meanwhile it is bigger than 0, we're gonna run and constantly create things. Might be a bit too might be a bit too high because it's constantly checking that, but it's better than using an update loop. You can also do it a bit different, because constantly reading this might be a bit too much. In that case, we could also say, meanwhile a boolean is true or false. We can also do this. So instead of constantly reading the time, we can constantly also read a boolean. Is it true or false? Might be not too heavy, might be not too heavy to read it. In that case, you can return a boolean, means public bool, something like timer is running or game is running, something like this. And in here we just return the boolean timer. I need a bool, of course. Bool timer running, or is running. You can name it whatever you want. And when we want to return timer running over here. And the last thing we need to do is we need to make sure that timer running is changing to be false once we are outside of this while loop. So timer running should be equal to true at the start. This is important, otherwise it doesn't make sense. It has to be true at the start, and once it is here, we need to make it false. And so based on that, we can stop the spawning, we can stop everything we want to inside the score manager. Nope, in the spawn manager. So instead of reading this, we can also say timer is running. So meanwhile the timer is running returns true. We're gonna spawn our creatures. We can differentiate the playtime or the timer itself, how long it should be inside Score Manager if we want to, so we can make it public as well, so everybody can play around with this time if they want to play around with the prototype. Once again, put this in a game manager. It literally has nothing to do with the Score Manager, but now we can say, okay, our playtime is 10 seconds. So we can check if our mathematics work and if our Boolean is going to work. So we spawn this, we spawn that. I should get a something at the bottom once I get some score and once the 10 seconds have been over. But there's one difference. Hi Unlegit, thanks a lot for tuning in. There is one thing I forgot to do, is I forgot to start the timer coroutine. And I recommend not do this in awake. Do this always in start. So void start method. I don't know if I have a start method yet, but I don't think so. Void start. Start is running after awake. So keep that in mind here as well. And then here we just want to say start coroutine, open close parentheses, and we want to start the timer coroutine. And since it is ending itself, we don't have to take care of anything else over there, because nobody else is ending it, at least not for the moment. Because again, it's not too heavy coded over there. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you're still watching this stream, let me know what you like or not, whatever. Thumb the video or the stream up if you want to, depending on when you're watching this. And the time is over. So as you can see, yes, they are still in the scene. We can take care of that in a moment, but as you can see, the time is over, and my final score was actually 3 points, because I only got 3 good ones to catch up. No, at least it was only 2. It was 1 fish and 1 of these clams. Cool. So now if we do, and the spawner already ended as well, so it hasn't spawned anything new but this stuff which has been over there. What we could do is to clean up, like we could say after a couple of seconds each enemy is going to destroy itself, based probably on the time they need. Maybe we can say something like every 20 seconds. Can I make a video about multiplayer? Well, multiplayer is really a huge one, and probably sooner or later I can dip my head in it. Probably I can mix it up with something I have created beforehand, but that's really a huge one, at least for me. And I haven't touched that topic too much, but a lot of people have requested that, so probably I'm gonna stick my head into it and bring you guys through. I just need to figure out if I would go with Firebase, in which we would need to inject PHP and some JavaScript to do a connection to a server and do all of that. So it's a bunch of, it's really a huge topic. Maybe we can use a free plugin for this. There's the Photon, there's the networking stuff from Unity, and there are probably some others. I believe Mirror is another one. But currently, well, once again, it's a huge topic to take a look into. So I'm not too much into PHP and stuff. I know the basics. But the old, there are issues with that here and there, security issues and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things to think about, but probably I'm going to take a look into multiplayer soon. Thanks for the request, by the way. I'm going to note that down and take a look into this. Cool. Where have we been? What I wanted to do is I wanted to change enemy script. Like once we are starting, like whenever we are at the bottom or wherever, we can already call the destroy method. We want to say, where are we? We want to destroy the game object, but we want to leave it alone for, let's say, 20 seconds. Or maybe even higher numbers might be interesting. Mirror for multiplayer. That's what I think. That's what I said. I'm sorry, the chat is half a minute slower than I am slower. than the chat. So I'm always recording before, or actually talking to you guys before I actually see you, or you are faster in writing than I can answer. So we can do something like that, or we can say if our enemy is hitting something, it gets destroyed, like left and right. We can put in something, a rigid body, and another, like an empty box or something, nothing fancy, or a box collider, which is going to interact with that. Once a fish passes that area or touches that area, it can get destroyed as well. Or we just use a time-based destruction. It a bit depends on the speed. So probably we're gonna do the destroy time as an open parameter. So something like a destroy time here, and we start with 20, and it's a float, and we're gonna use destroy time here. So everybody should be able to use that number and change that. Yeah, plugins are bad. And self-hosting, yeah, you need to know how to inject JavaScript, or use Firebase, which is is by Google, but it has its limit, or has its limits based on that. Oh, no worries. It's about me, not you. So we can check out if slower enemies need 20 seconds to survive before they get deleted or destroyed. Faster ones might not get destroyed as fast, but these fish might get destroyed before they actually leave the space. But it's looking okay, and we're gonna get rid of maximize and play and see when these things are, or if that things are going to destroy themselves after. So this fish were destroying themselves. These guys do destroy themselves after 20 seconds as well. So the faster they are, the further they can go. But in the end, they are going to clean up themselves. Yeah, again, multiplayer, huge topic. Maybe I'm gonna take a look into this, but well, it's rather time consuming, at least first of getting my head into it, and then try to teach whatever I learned beforehand. So yeah, there are a bunch of bad plugins. If you want to serve, use your own server, then yeah, you need to inject code for matchmaking. So it's a bit hard to explain, but you need a console which is able to talk to the server, which is doing the server-based matchmaking. Like for example, you create a room, and in this room there are people which can subscribe to that particular room. Let's say you have a turn-based game where you have 4 players. You need to wait first if more than 4, or at least 4, are going to be inside this room, or maybe in a lobby or something. You can drag them in automatically, but that needs to be done server-based. And this server code needs to be JavaScript, I guess. I'm not a good JavaScript guy at the moment, but maybe I figure that out a bit. Maybe I use my own server. How to subscribe or how to log into a server, that's the easiest one. The hardest one is how to connect those people. So they like, you send them into a table. That's the easiest one. That's okay. But how to bring them into a match, like how to combine them into, I mean, everybody can subscribe, you can send them into a room. In Firebase it's rather simple to create a room, but maybe with a REST API as well as normal server-based code, maybe the REST API should be your first touch over here. I'm gonna take a look into this. Once again, it's a huge topic. There are a bunch of things to take a look into. The hardest part is really the matchmaking part, to inject code into the server which is picking people to play against each other, like from the lobby or from wherever, which is literally nothing than just a table pushing. You take a somebody who has subscribed or who is now in the lobby, then you need to form a room and pick 4 people, 2 people, 20, 100, whatever the server can handle at the same time, and then you need to translate that information, like depending on what you want to go for, right? So if it is just a simple turn-based game, it's different than a huge multiplayer-based game, or maybe something like League of Legends, where other players need to understand or need to know the position of opposite players or opponent players, and so on and so forth. Again, it's a lot of stuff to think about. Okay, back to whatever we do here. The final thing is you want to do is you probably want to put a timer somewhere, and just so people know when the game is over, or the kids, whenever they play, they know, okay, I only have this and that amount of time left. For that, we can use just simple UI elements. Usually TMP, what is it called? Text Mesh Pro is a good one, because the quality is a bit different than normal text components. Doesn't really make a difference, but quality wise there is that one difference. To do that, we need to go and create a new UI canvas first, and we don't need to name this. I don't know why they implement this, but well, up to you. What do we need? We need to make sure that scale with screen size is absolutely on top, and we need to create a new text Mesh Pro. I need to import the Text Mesh Pro essentials, otherwise I cannot make use of them. And so same thing is we need to implement the Text Mesh Pro namespace. I don't need to import the examples, that's it. I need to make sure that it is going to be at the top, so I anchor that to the top over here, and in there would be like a 0.00, something like that. There should be somewhere a way to center this. You can play around with the size. What we need to do is we need to hook it up to the score manager script and pass over the time, like the seconds which are left. Because of the Text Mesh Pro example stuff, I'm gonna go and pretty quickly close all my other coding windows. Again, that's a small bug on my side, so no worries about it. I need to go into Score Manager now and connect. I'm gonna save and quit this one. I don't know if that was a good one. I believe it was from another code stuff or coding challenge I was in. So what do I need? I need the Score Manager. And in here I need to implement Text Mesh Pro, otherwise I cannot talk to that and pass over. Using TMP Pro, this one. This is the namespace you need to do or need to use here. For the score, I'm gonna make a public TMP text, and this is going to be my score text. And what we can do is we can say every time we update this timer to a full number, well, we need to round it then. That we can pass it over here. So it would be something like, what did I name it? Timer text. Where is it? Score text. That's wrong. I need a timer text, not a score text. I mean, you can implement a score text, of course, as well. It's the same thing. So timer text dot text is equal to, why is that timer, why is that now so weird? Not everything passes. Okay, no worries. So timer text dot text is equal to, and then we can do something like, depending on how you want to do this, I would implement an extra thing over here. We need to do a string 00 colon, and then we can say plus, and then we put the seconds, because it's like it is like over 60 over there. So basically a timer, this is going to be the number. But we need to round this number and convert it to a string. So we said we don't need to convert it to a string, but I would convert it to a decimal 2 over here. I believe we need the quotes, something like that. So that's the simplest timer. The That's the English word for Unterschied. The difference. What's the difference between Text and TextMesh Pro? TextMesh Pro is it's using basically the same thing, but it has more flexibility. That means in here we just have the usual stuff about TextMesh Pro, like, you know, what is the input text over there, but we have font assets, which are, as you can see, extremely sharp. They are literally mesh-based fonts. I don't know, they are not much implemented. I don't know how to create some. That's something I would need to look into, but probably you can create your own font assets and use them. This is a different, at least one difference, as well as you can see in the even in the scene view, even as the smallest font size. Maybe one is a bit too small, but as you can see, even the smallest font size you are able to read it. And with normal text, that is not possible. I mean, it's looking okay in the game view, the normal text ones, but TextMesh Pro has an absolutely nice one here. Also, you can put in like borders, like what is it called, outlines. You have a bunch of effects you can put in, like here, can put a big outline around these text mesh. You can tint it in HDR. You can make it delineate, as you can see. You can do a bunch of things over here, and so on. So you can even make this one soft, like it's blurring out that mesh. So again, TextMesh Pro, I don't know what this number has been, but I believe it's 0. TextMesh Pro is way more flexible, and it's way more useful. Also, you can even do underscore things. You cannot do this automatically in the text ones. So yeah, you can always take a look into a normal text ones. You can see the difference, like super simple, super easy. You have like, well, you can load in any font, but look at the quality. Let's see where is that thing. Look at the quality. It's not really sharp in the scene view. I mean, it's also not really big. So TextMesh Pro quality-wise plus possibilities-wise is way better than normal text elements, I would say. Cool. Now let's hook up. I'm gonna rename this score text. Score text. You don't need to name it TMP, because once you click on this, you know what it is about. I'm gonna hook that up to my TextMesh Pro over here and press play, and let's see if what that means and what that does for us. Formal exception D2 is invalid. Why is that? I don't know. Did I make a typo? Float timer. Probably decimal 2 doesn't make sense for a float. Do we need a float? Well, would be nice to have it as a float. So maybe we need to convert it to an int first. Does it make sense? Or maybe we're gonna do something like a round to int, or mesf dot I don't know what it was. Float floor to int. Maybe floor to int. I don't know why we should do this. Then we don't need this decimal 2 stuff, I guess. Floor to int. Timer. I don't know if that makes a difference. Once again, usually you would convert it. You can create a window text font as a creator. Cool. Thanks a lot, Bitchy. Gonna take a look probably later on into it. I need to maximize on play so you guys see something too small here. So as you can see, we now have this little timer in the top over here. So we can do, meanwhile this timer is running, we can do stuff. We can get score. Again, I don't have a score pool, but it's literally doing the same. You can put the score probably in front of the sun, so it's looking a bit more nice. I can get rid of gizmos so we don't see the canvas and all that stuff. I just forgot to click on one of the fish, and there we go. So now we can see how much score we are able to get over there. Cool. Last one, really last one right now, is we're gonna go and put a score text as being a TMP Pro text here as well. Like every time we add the score, we update this score thing. How do we do this? Well, first off, again, we create a TMP underscore text. It's going to be our score text. We only update this once again whenever we click, whenever we add score. We don't have to do this anymore any time else. Like after we are changing the amount, we update this. We don't need to run this in a timer. And I have seen a bunch of people updating score constantly in the update loop. So go away from that. That is not good. How do we do this? We say score text dot text is equal to what is it? It is a score. We need to convert score to string. And here we can do something like D8. Well, I don't know. I hope that now works again. Usually that works. We should not D2, but maybe D3 or 4. D4 should be or should stand for decimal 4 decimal numbers. So it keeps zeros in the front of the number. Final step is we need to create a new text field for this. So we can literally use score text from here, duplicate, Control D, bring this to the left or just anchor it top left, like so, and bring this maybe above the sun. I go and use something like 4 zeros at the first place. You don't have to, you can, and we name this score text instead of well, I did a this one should be the time text, not the score text, time text with a bunch of typos, of course. And in Score Manager we do have time text here, and score text should be there, so we can update it whenever needed. We can go with a smaller size. We can also tint this. It's not a vertex color, I guess it's the normal face color. How do we tint this correctly? Oh, by the way, this is also a cool thing in TextMesh Pro. You can code text by using color coding. So each letter of a text could have a different color. That's also something you cannot do with normal text. Well, not that I would know of. I would go with black and bring this one a bit down and maybe above the sun. We should anyhow be able to resize that thing. We should also be able to, since we could also use auto size, we can play around with that, and we should be able to use that anchor here, so it tries to keep the position. Not quite sure if that really works, but in full screen we should be able to see even further if that works or not. So now whenever I press on a clamp, I got 2 points. If I now press this guy, I got a -3 points because it gives me negative points here. So now I just got more points. I don't want to hit this. We can also use something like life. Whenever you hit one of that spiky guys, you can reduce life if you want to. There are so many things you can take a look into. You better just don't touch them. Over here in higher levels you can increase the amount of creatures appearing, and so on and so forth. You can make them faster, you can use different enemy scenarios, and so on. So once the timer is done, we should everything should stop, nothing else should go further. This is actually bad. This is why I wanted to have this number as a decimal too. Yeah, this course Earn Money with Unity just got, let's say, deactivated because nobody really was interested into it. So I'm gonna go and have to delete all the links to it. So nobody really took or wanted to purchase that course anymore. That's why it's not available anymore. Because nobody was interested into making money, it seems. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, there's another one which I also had to get rid of. Well, I need to clean up that a bit. You're right. I'm gonna put this onto my onto my schedule. Okay, guys. If you don't have any questions to this topic, I would close it right now. My final score was 19 points. Time was over after 1 minute. There was a -1 number over here, which means it was counting down once more. Probably because of the as a floor to int, probably was going downwards a bit, or took the negative automatically. Like a floor to int probably takes the higher or lowest number, which would be, you know, -1 at this point. Anyways, we can always fix that and can say, okay, if the timer is smaller than, you know, or higher than 1, we're gonna count that down so we don't go too deep into that thing or the scenario, and we don't get this. Or there's a massive.round to int or something. Maybe that is going to give us not a negative number at the very end. Anyways, this is something you need to take a look into. There are so many functions and possibilities for this code. Once again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, if you haven't already, check out the description for all my or most of my courses. Maybe I'm gonna go and update the list sooner or later. Just check out my Udemy channel and you're gonna see all the available ones there as well. Once you click one of them links, you're gonna see probably my profile picture over there, and then you should be able to look into all my courses currently available in my Udemy channel. And there's a Skillshare channel as well, so you can check it out as well if you like Skillshare more than Udemy. This is totally, again, up to you. The Skillshare link should be in the community tab, so just check it out as well. If you guys have no questions, well, then I would end up the stream over here because it's almost 3 hours. We were doing a great job, I believe. You can always create super fishes, like maybe a small Sharky guy. You can scale Sharky or Sharky graphic a bit down if you want to, like a 0.3 or something, so he's harder to hit. Actually, that is not really necessary. You can keep that as 1 if you want to, or you do whatever. And you can tint Sharky with, let's say, a bluish tint, so he's maybe something special, or maybe something more bright, like this. And we can name him Enemy Sharky Shiny. You can also use color coding and tint it up and down in any direction if you want to. And I would go and increase the speed to something like 10, super speed. The destroy time can be lower than something like 10. And then we can take him here as a original prefab and put him into in Spawn Manager. So we also have a chance to get more points because we want not just more speed, but also maybe 25 score or something like that. So he's small, tiny, hard to hit, but still nice for us to hit, as we can tell. Oh, he is super fast. I couldn't even touch him. So question is, why is he so not touchable? I don't know. Let me try to catch him. Oh, he was flying in the wrong direction. So there's one. Yes, I got him. So I got the 25 points. So if you want to hunt them down, and you know, you can make them even faster, so you have some special fish. Maybe you're gonna put another fish where you get some time, extra time, and so on. Okay guys, so this concludes our casual kids game session over here. Thanks a lot that you all guys have been here. Over 200 people were joining and, you know, leaving this live stream. So I'm glad you guys checked that out. If you have any questions, if you have anything else, if you have any requests, feel free to put them down below in the comment section. Most of the time I read them, and most of the time I am able to, answer them. And yeah, feel free to check out all the courses I've created beforehand. Currently I'm working on the Uno course, so the card game. So thanks BG, thanks all the other guys for for your help, I would say. Same for TextMesh Pro stuff and so on and so forth. Once again, if you guys have any requests, questions, stuff like that, or need help, you can always, by the way, hire me for a job. Like if you need help with something, we can do live streams together. So all the information about that is on my website, OctoManGames.com, in which you can, contact me directly. We can do some appointment and so on and so forth. Once again, thanks a lot for tuning in, all you guys. Thanks a lot for being here with me. And maybe you learned something, maybe you got something new. Sometimes it's not so easy to teach new stuff when I already teach that beforehand, but probably new people or new guys and girls out there have never seen this or that. Maybe you learned about expressions, maybe not. Maybe something else was with you or for you. Maybe you learned a bit of Inkscape. I don't know. A lot of people hate Inkscape or hate doing graphics. I don't understand that, but you should always take a step further and take a look into that. So once again, thanks a lot all you guys for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the weekend or whatever time you are currently watching this one. So I hope to see you in the next live stream, and yeah, have a good one and share your progress. If you make videos or something like that, share the links down below so other people can see what you are currently doing over there. So feel free to do so. Again, if you have questions and so on or need help, just contact me as usual. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one, and cheers and bye bye.